Okay guys, during this video the idea is to show you how the tool Smart Dimension works and how to dimension different things using SolidWorks so you can complete your projects. To begin, I am going to draw a couple of shapes here on this top plane. I don't care about the dimensions yet. It's just to let you see how this works. And now, I have 4 different shapes here, and a Smart Dimension tool, if you check, it has a lot of different ways to dimension. The one that we're going to use is a Smart Dimension, the first one. So you need to take something into account, and is that a Smart Dimension can dimension everything but in 2 dimensions. It is in the tab Sketch, so that means that you can only dimension these things that are right here. So if you click on the line, for example, one time, you're going to see that the dimension of that line is 6648, but that is the real dimension. What does it mean? It is dimensioning parallel to the line. If we move further, we will find that the measure changed. Now it's 6025, but the thing is that is a vertical dimension. As you can see, the lines of the dimension, the one that is here and the one that is here, they are vertical. So that means that we're going to measure in a vertical way. That's why it is different. So the real one is 6648, vertically is 6025, and if we move here, horizontally it is 2810. Same thing that with vertical. It is not real. I mean, it is real because it's a real measure, but it doesn't work as we want. So if you take a look here, for example, I'm going to measure this. I click again, and that will give me this small pop-up, and I'm gonna say, okay, you're going to measure 70. And now the line measures 70 exactly. We're going to try, for example, with the circle. The circle allows you to measure the diameter. If you're inside, you're going to see it like this. If you move outside, you're going to see it like this. It doesn't really matter. The measure is exactly the same, but it's the diameter, not the radius. So the diameter will be, I don't know, 30. Here, in a shape like this, where it's a polygon, you have to measure only, well, you can measure here how big will be each side. So 15, I'm gonna say that each side will be 10, and since this is a regular polygon, all the sides will be 10. And finally, here with the square, with the rectangle, I'm going to measure here not 60 but 75. And here I'm not going to measure. Here I'm going to measure. Here I'm going to measure 70. So as you can see here, I have everything measured. But there is another thing that you can do. For example, if I want to move this circle and put it here inside of this square, exactly in the middle of the square, I will have to do some math, and I would have to click a couple times more. So I will select a Smart Dimension, and since I want to move the center of the circle, I'm going to select the center of the circle, and here I am going to click on the line. So that will measure between the center of the circle and the line. But the thing is that the circle is on top, is above the square, and I don't want it above the square, I want it in the middle. So I'm gonna move the circle by clicking and dragging. I'm gonna put it here, I don't care. And once again, a Smart Dimension from the line to, from the center of the circle. Again, Smart Dimension from the center of the circle to the line. And the dimension will be, if this is 70, the middle will be 35. So now it's 35. And then from the center of the circle until this side, this measure is 75. So that means that I need the middle of 75, which will be 37.5. And that's how we can control different operations here. We can move things, we can measure things, and that's everything when it comes to 2 dimensions. And there is another thing that you can measure, and it is in 3 dimensions. Here I'm going to finish my sketch. I don't care, and I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to make a circle here on the top plane also. I'm going to make a circle here outside. So I'm going to make a cylinder, for example. I'm going to make I'm going to select Smart Dimension. This is a new sketch. As you can see, this one is blue, but the others became gray because this is a new sketch. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to say that is going to be 55 millimeters. Remember, we're measuring in millimeters. I'm finishing my sketch. And now, if I want to make this in 3 dimensions, I click on Features, I select it, go to Features, go to Extruded Boss Base, and here in this I can dimension the operation in 3D. So that means that if I want to have 75 millimeters, I'm going to type 75, click on Return, press Return, and I'm going to have a cylinder in 75 millimeters. I'm going to click on here, and I will have everything. Same thing happens when you cut things. So I'm going to cut something here on top. I'm going to make a square here, or a rectangle, something. I go to Features, and this time I will select Extruded Cut. So I'm going to cut this material. By default, it's telling me that if I want to cut it all, so that would be 75, but if I don't want to, I will simply modify this measure, and I'm going to say, I don't know, 35. And it will be kind of like in the middle. So when I select here, I cut it, but it is not completely cut. Let's take a look here. It's cut only until this point. So that's the way you can measure. Remember, if you want to measure things in 2 dimensions, you select a Smart Dimension before you finish your sketches. And if you want to measure things in 3 dimensions, such as extrusions or extruded cuts, you can do it while you are cutting or extruding.